What's up, guys? It's John at National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to do a recap of tonight's game, and then go into tomorrow's, of course. And tonight's was interesting because it's been an interesting series. In Game 1 and 2, I had the Lakers losing both of those games, but I had the Nuggets covering them, and the Lakers got clip covers at the end, so it didn't matter. In this game, I was off. I had the Lakers winning, as you guys know. But I did have the Nuggets covering, and they covered. So I'll take it. It's an ugly cover, but I'll take it. And speaking of ugly, that's essentially, the way the system works. All of them are not going to be great. But some of them I'll take, like this one, we got the cover. I did not have the Nuggets going up 3-0. That being said, it's one of the few reasons I try and use metrics and all sorts of things and not just one thing. And obviously, speaking of the Lakers, when people have come to the determination the Lakers were going to win, everybody just decided to use only one of many, many, many variables, and it's why I don't. I'm going to tell two interesting stories, one of them involving the Colts from last year. An individual in my Discord, I forget who it was, they're not in there anymore. But for a while back when they joined, they essentially gave me the most detailed, this thing should have been submitted as a science experiment, and it probably would have been proven by the scientific method. This combination of numbers going over as to why the Colts were going to believe, I believe it was the Titans, why they were going to certainly beat the Titans. I mean, this was the most proof-read and checked-out math I've ever seen. These numbers weren't just like selective numbers. It was ridiculous. It was like Matt Ryan's, 900th game, and it was going to be, the 900th time that if the Colts had won, it would have been their 900th win in franchise history, and it was on the 9th. It was so many numbers that checked out, 56 days from their last win against this team, and it was on 5-6. I mean, I just can't even. I wish I still had it. It looked like a work of art. I liked it so much, I decided, screw it. This is way better than any kind of idea I have. I explained it to people in my video, gave the person credit, only to look like an idiot when the Colts got pounded. Week 3, same season. I remember liking the Cowboys to beat the Giants. I was clowned by a few people who said Dallas is 30, which means that the Giants are clearly going 3-0, only for after the game them to announce how Cooper Rush, I think his name is, or Cameron Rush, whatever his name is, the quarterback for the Cowboys, had improved to 3-0. I mean, my point is, just like my narratives, all these things, Gematria can go so many ways. And the problem is, once we start thinking a certain way with it, that is all we do. We can fit any number into the sequence. And I don't have a problem with Gematria, but that's the issue I have with the people that after the fact claim, this is how we knew. Now, to be fair, the people that were saying the Lakers from, all season long, at least, they weren't just waiting till afterwards and saying, look how obvious it was. But my point is, in general, it's the reason. It's not that I fade Gematria. It doesn't work out great for me when I use it. In baseball, I had all these historical numbers. It led me to the Dodgers playing the Yankees. I mean, it's just, for me in the past, that's why, A, I use my system, and it's more about discipline. But B, I try and use narratives and money management, things of that nature, where I think the money's going to be. And it doesn't always work. But it just works out a little better than when I go with Gematria. But as I said, Lakers they outperformed everything I thought they would this year, and of course they are still alive. I just honestly don't think they're going to defy history and come back. As I pointed out, I could have seen the Celtics dropping to 0-3 and making the comeback because they're just a team that you can believe doing that. But as far as the Lakers doing that, it just doesn't make sense to me. I know some people are saying sweep. Again, this is, essentially 2020, and it's being ran back. Joker, this is something I had gone over before, and again, this is the reason I reassess everything that comes to me is, the Nuggets here. It's essentially the 2020 repeat of the bubble bowl. But what's interesting is, again, Joker was snubbed from the All-Star game this year. Added, he went on to say how he's not an All-Star type player, but people will see in the playoffs that won't matter, essentially, if he's not flashy, because he was drafted last for the All-Star team, barely used. The international appeal, I tried telling people when they told me that Denver's not a draw and Joker's not a draw and nobody cares about Joker. I tried explaining to people that it's not just Serbia. This man has international appeal throughout Europe, just like Luka, just like a lot of other players that are drafted from EuroLeague. So that's something that can't be ignored. It's not like this guy is not a draw. We just don't understand. Look at the draft. Wemba just went first for a reason. Yeah, he's a freak of nature, but it's international appeal. It's not a coincidence. You got Giannis, you got Luka, you got Embiid is Canadian. I mean, it's just not a coincidence. So, for a lot of reasons, I think it's important to try and reassess everything, and look into what's been making sense. And as I've gone into before, there's a lot of things that make sense to me. The Lakers, the 5-6 James thing. It's just one last Gematria story. So just so you guys know, these are things I've taken Gematria into account for a while. Last year, everyone told me the Bucks were going to win, and it was because of Gematria. So the Gematria was, and I thought it was actually even more substantial than the 5-6 coronation of the king, because Tom Brady would have gone 8-3 in the Super Bowl, and his damn birthday is 8-3. To me, that's a pretty convincing one. Even if you're not into Gematria, you'd have to admit that's a pretty, almost too ridiculous to exist statistic. And a lot of numbers were lining up for them, and sure enough, it did not work out. I had gone into that one. I did a Super Bowl video that I do think there is symbolism. For example, he retired and Pat Mahomes improved to .666 in the Super Bowl, taking his torch. And so there's things that happened. But again, it was more using narratives and Gematria and stuff that we came to the determination that we thought the Chiefs would beat the Eagles. I'm just trying to use it as examples because, again, I've been off before. I was off tonight. I had the Lakers winning. Luckily, we got the cover. But that's the reason I don't just completely hone in on Gematria. It just, to me, in the past, it just, maybe I don't use it right. I don't know. But it's just has not come through for me at even close to a consistent rate. It's just led me to, really down into the weeds, as they call it. So, about the series, I don't think it's going to be a sweep, being honest. That being said, I don't think they're going to tease too much of a crazy comeback. I could see the Lakers rattling off 2 wins or something like that. People keep talking about 6. I could see that. But again, I think it's the Joker international appeal that was slept on. And Nuggets, I've gone over this too. As far as the teams left, they definitely, in my opinion, have the least money on them. Because even Miami, they have appealing odds. At least they did. So, I mean, if someone got on Miami before the playoffs, they got pretty good lines, pretty good odds. If they went with the Nuggets, they still got good odds, but not as good as the Heat. So speaking of that, now, again, this is why a lot of times I reassess my narratives. And if a team that looks like they might have had a chance is definitely looking like they don't, now we have to look at everything. So, again, with the Lakers, Celtics, and Lakers Heat both made a lot of sense to me because obviously Lakers Celtics, the history, as people had gone over. Lakers Heat, we got a repeat of the bubble bowl. Now, Nuggets Heat or Nuggets Celtics, that's kind of where we got to look now, just because, again, it's about using all the information we have. That being said, the Heat fit a couple theories that I've been going over. I go on over all year the color theory. Well, not all year, but once, essentially, I think it was when the Bulldogs were the first team, the Chiefs were the second. I think it was a UConn one, and I just noticed, this is a lot of teams winning that are predominantly white with red, and then either a dark blue or a dark or light, black, as their third color. So that's the reason I've noticed, and the year before was all blue and gold. So we do have a team that perfectly fits the color theory, as we do in the NBA Finals, by the way, depending who wins, the Hurricanes or the Panthers. But it's interesting because, we have here odds that even with the Heat having won the first two games and they're at home, they're only 3.5, which I guess you could argue that makes sense. Maybe public will be on them. Even, again, they're underdogs, which makes sense to me. They should still be underdogs because, let's assume it's realistic for a second. Boston will be playing their hardest and doing everything they could to win a Game 3 that they need to win after dropping 2 at home. But at the end of the day, it's the Heat at home. They just won 2 games, so it makes sense that you can make the argument maybe they should be favorites. But I think with the two teams we're looking at, there's nothing really suspicious about the spread to me. I don't think it's a crazy spread. I think it's about where it should be. So now it's just going into where we think the public's going to be. Is more of the public going to be on Boston here or the Heat? And again, you could argue that more of the public might be on Boston, only laying 3.5. But at the same time, again, I think you have the Heat at home getting almost 4 points. I think Boston this might be the game where they really look just ridiculous. This is something I've gone over before. Jimmy and Joker, both of them, they've really been presented a little different than other guys. Just the way that they've been approached. They just haven't. They've been treated like they are just absolute menaces for other teams, which they have been, and they've just been established different, in my opinion, than Tatum, and some of these other stars. So that's interesting. But the thing I've noticed about Jimmy is he reminds me of Luka, James Harden. The games where he just doesn't show up, it is blatantly obvious. Like, he just does not. In the fourth quarter where he'll make that, Jimmy Butler switch turn, it just doesn't happen. He's nowhere to be found, and he just takes some bad shots, and he's just not the same guy. So I do think Boston will win and cover this game, make it interesting. Sure, they could have the Lakers, I guess, and Celtics go down 3-0 each, but that's just more of an interesting story that it is a really good narrative. You have to keep one of them, in my opinion, back and forth, incredibly close. And considering this is these two teams third time playing in 4 years, I do think we're going to see a 7-game series. So, again, I like Boston for the cover. Tonight, again, it's been a funny series there because we're the two games that we won and kind of had the narrative right. We didn't get the cover, and then yes, I was way off with my prediction as far as I thought the Lakers would win a 1 or 2 point game, but the Nuggets cover worked. So, at the end of the day, most of us are if you're just following the system and doing the 1 leg, 2 leg, 3 leg covers, then it worked out. But it's just funny that we keep doing that. So I wonder if we'll do that again. I'm wondering what the spread's going to be in Game 4 there. But yeah, I just wanted to go into kind of, because I know I'm getting a lot of people that are newer to, haven't seen my channel before, etc. And I haven't really gone over this system in a little bit because it's used more when we're playing multiple games. But I wanted to go over also why I do and don't make certain picks. And the Gematria one was, it's great, theories I love. That's why I have my Discord, different insights and different commonalities. I just, again, I don't think anybody out there is going to have the answer via Gematria before it happens. I think it's too multi-coded, and again, I've done videos on using Gematria, and I believe it exists. It's just when it's so multi-coded, we could find 100 different phrases that fit 100 different ordinals, and it can make any of these teams look like guaranteed winners. So now the question is, again, what kind of script do they have in plan for the Lakers? Jim Brown did just die, so I think something's going to happen with LeBron. I don't think he's going to, just quietly get swept. It should be interesting. But it'll also, like I said, I think it's just kind of letting people know where Jokic stands, where some of these guys stand compared to where, they're believed to stand. I don't think people just understand the international appeal. And pretty soon, I think you'll start seeing, Wemba when, I don't know how many straight MVPs. I think we have like 5 in a row now that have been international. And I think it should, I guess Embiid, yeah, he should qualify as international in my opinion, if he's Canadian. But it just, in my opinion, something that they're copying from WWE. WWE is notorious for, understanding the international market. So, yeah, again, especially with no Lakers, not technically yet, but most likely no Lakers. With that Lakers-Celtics matchup off the board, it's a lot easier for me to view this series and like the Heat a lot, every bit more. And another interesting thing is, we got Spoelstra, we got Pat Riley, which is another interesting two men that don't really get talked about, but they're very important. They're both part of this historic franchise. And Jimmy's in his 13th year. If you go back, again, I think symbolism is there. I just think it's not everywhere. But if you go back, the year 13 is a crowning year. It's huge, obviously, in Masonic use and things of that nature. And just to name a few, Steph Curry, LeBron James, Dirk Nowitzki, Michael Jordan, I believe Kobe and Magic. Actually, I don't think Magic. Kobe, Bird. These guys all won a ring in their 13th year. And obviously Dirk's was his first ring, and some other players won their first in year 13. But if you look at the greatest players, almost all of them won one in their 13th year. So to me, that's something that can't be ignored. It was one of the reasons I liked Fielding and James Harden. To me, they just had the Doc factor, which I found more interesting. But yeah, Spoelstra came out and said when Doc got fired how it was disturbing. You can do so well and you can get fired. And then he went on to say, this is something I actually forgot up until now that I'm talking about him. He went on to say how he would have, if this was how he could have scripted the finals, this is how he would have. And this is before game 1 of this series, by the way. Going into game 1, he said, if I could have scripted it exactly this way, this is how I'd script it. And then when he was asked to elaborate, he said it was, if I could have told my team that we were going to be a play-in team, and then we were going to be playing the Celtics again in the Eastern Conference Finals, they would have loved it, basically, is what he said. So again, another guy is saying, if it was scripted, this is how, or it couldn't have been scripted any better, etc. So again, to me, that's the stuff I try and look at. A guy in our faces telling us it's scripted. A guy that did go in the last bubble bowl, did not win. And to me, it just makes sense. And they also fit my color theory. They were pushing them as, the biggest underdog in the history of the league. They really are, because they're the first play-in team to do this. And of course, the play-in just started happening, so it's a small sample. But they're still going to run with that narrative. So that's what I'm liking. Just looking at it, it just makes sense to me. So, I do like the Celtics tomorrow. I do think that they're going to win and cover to make this a 2-1 series. Again, because we have 2 games in Miami. I think you got to get people to suspend their disbelief. Miami goes up 3-0. I just don't buy that they're going to have them and the Nuggets go up 3-0. It makes the finals really boring for, people that really want to see Boston go back. So I think this one's going to be ridiculously close, a close series. But I do like Boston for the winning cover tomorrow. And yeah, like I said, we're not always over the target, but, good job for everyone that got the Nuggets cover. I'll take them however they come as far as that. And same thing with tomorrow, Hopefully we get the Celtics cover. It's not always pretty, but as long as we're closing them out, that's all that matters. And then, yeah, if you have any theories of what you believe, if you think there's a reason that LeBron looked good and now, they're not looking so good, I'm curious. I don't know. My personal theory is he's not getting a ring until Bronny gets drafted. I didn't think he was going to make the playoffs until Bronny got drafted, so maybe I went a little extreme there. But I genuinely thought, he was just going to be embarrassed year after year. And it's interesting because he's got points, but he really hasn't shown up this series. It's been if you go on the ESPN sites and kind of read the comments, people that think it's real, they'll point out that Reeves has been the guy doing basically everything, just carrying LeBron on his back. AD looked more impressive today, from what I could tell. So yeah, that's interesting. LeBron, he is number 6 here, so maybe that's why he's not looking so clutch in the playoffs. Obviously, Bill was like the most clutch playoff player ever. It could be a million things, but I'm curious if you have any opinions on the Heat or on the Lakers or any of these teams, Nuggets, Celtics, and what you think they're going to do at the finals now. If you're liking the Nuggets, Heat, or if you still like something else. If you think the Lakers might pull off the first comeback ever. I personally just don't see it. Again, Boston, I could actually see it. A, because they've done it with a Boston team before, and B, because they've been pitched as a believable team to come back from 3-0. And again, there's something was brought up in my Discord. The Celtics are only about I don't even think they're 2-1 underdogs in this series. They're about, I think, plus 150 or between 150 and 170. It might have moved a little bit. But in the Heat are minus 160 to win this series, which is obviously their favorites. But it tells me Vegas knows something. When the team that went up 2-0 on the road and has 2 games at home is about half the favorites that the Lakers were, that the Nuggets were, just is very interesting to me. It's very revealing. So that's why I like the Celtics in Game 3 as well. Just kind of using that logic. I feel like Vegas definitely does not have the Celtics going down 3-0. Or there would certainly be a bigger underdog to win the series. So, yeah, nothing crazy. You probably see Tatum channel his inner Kobe. That is another thing. This man's being pushed as the new Kobe. They're basically telling us to just accept it. So, he had the video where he had his Kobe sneakers. He went into that. Kobe's his favorite player. And it was like they weren't sure whether to push Booker or Tatum as the next Kobe. They both basically had the same exact mindset, mentality, and Tatum, as far as those pull away, fade away shots he makes, and a lot of his post game is obviously reminiscent of Kobe. And then Booker with getting open and just that quick release, making difficult shots. He's like Kobe in that regard. So it does seem like they're going with Tatum over Booker as far as the guy, but Booker's still getting his love. But yeah, I've just noticed they've really tried to, in my opinion, push Tatum as the new Kobe. And they're going to do this with every player, in my opinion. Every player is going to have a replacement. So yeah, I don't want to make this too long, but I also wanted to cover it in more detail because I wanted to really go over, essentially, the new finals assessments that I have, which, again, in the East is funny because Vegas still has it close, but I do like my color theory still. I know I've been stubborn with it, but it's been the only theory that I can say is consistent that came through outside the XFL, which I'm not even sure if the XFL counts. I really just counted the major 4 sports and college last year with the blue and gold. I'm not sure even who won. I think it was the Renegades last year too. Or not the Renegades, and the Defenders won last year, and this year they lost. But my point is, it's hit for every major sport. Hit all last year. Yeah, people were pointing out how the colors matched up with Ukraine, and obviously red, white is going to match up with America, Russia, which is interesting. So I do think that it ties into politics, and I do think that the colors are a symbol of basically, just like they use Gematria. I just think the colors are a little more obvious. So we'll see if it holds, if another, red and white team does pull off the win. But that's just what I'm seeing right now. But again, it doesn't make me like the Celtics any less tomorrow. Just because I like the Heat doesn't mean they're going to sweep the Celtics. They'll probably, make this a very, if it's been like it already. And to me, this is a good old-fashioned rivalry. You have teams the same, you have a different coach, but a lot of the same players who have played each other now. And this is going to be the third time in 4 years. So that's not an accident, in my opinion. It's just setting up a nice rivalry. which we used to have a lot of, and I think they're trying to get back to that. They're doing it in the West too, just setting up more old-fashioned rivalries, it seems like. So this should be interesting, but again, I think they go with at the end of it, it's going to be the fairy tale for the Heat story. But Game 3, I do like, again, the Celtics. And if you're doing like props, I think it's nothing fancy. I think Tatum's the guy that they have to go off. And yeah, I think Jimmy lays an egg. I do. I think he's going to look like Harden does when they do bad. Suddenly, he's just not going to be able to do things that he's been doing seamlessly all postseason. And someone pointed out to me live action, which is a way to go, because if it's the first quarter and you can just tell by his energy or lack thereof that, oh man, Jimmy's just not here tonight, then there's you're probably noticing something, and you're probably right. In my Discord all the time, people will point up someone's lack of energy, or how a team's pacing a certain way, or just playing woefully bad, but they're only down by a few points, and you'd be surprised how many times that they do really well with that live action. So if someone said to me like you're better off waiting live, they're not wrong. You can get better odds live, and you can kind of have an idea what's going to happen. But just going off pregame odds, going off where I think the public's going to be, what makes sense, yeah, like Boston for the cover. So take care and happy earnings.